Good evening. I am your host, Jamal Brown, aka Mr. Black 365, founder and creator of the Black 365 calendar and educational products. You are listening to the Gist of Freedom radio show. We have over 300 shows that you can listen to at blackhistoryuniversity.com, blackhistoryuniversity.com. Those shows have been listened to a combined total of over 30,000 times, something that we are happy and excited and proud to say. Again, I'm humbled to be here with a brilliant scholar, a world traveler, a dynamic woman who I am jealous of. Not many people on the planet I can say I'm jealous of, but what she's going to share with you in just a few moments, you'll see why I am jealous. I wish my passport had as many stamps. I wish my frequent flyer miles had as many as hers do. But I'm talking about Miss Tammy Gibson. Miss Tammy Gibson, thank you for joining us this evening.
Thank you. I'm so glad to be on your show.
The pleasure is ours. The pleasure is ours. So tell us what it is that you do. You and I are friends, follow each other on Twitter.
Yes.
And I don't know how it is, but for some reason, maybe you post a lot, or maybe I don't know. Just your posts are the first posts I see on Twitter every single day. And what those tweets consist of are her world travel. She travels around the world, travels around the country, discovering, shining a spotlight on little nuggets in Black history. Ms. Gibson, please take it away from there. Tell us a little bit more about what it is.
Yeah, so again, my name is Tammy Gibson. I'm a travel historian, and for the past 11 years, I've traveled all over the world, locating and documenting African American historical sites. So it can be from historical homes such as W.E. Du Bois in Ghana, Frederick Douglass, Marian Anderson. I locate markers. I also go to visit plantations. I've slept in slave quarters to raise the awareness of the importance of these sacred grounds, because a lot of the plantations want to sugarcoat the history of the enslaved people that were on these plantations. And so I use my platform to not only educate myself, but educate others about the importance of these slave quarters, because a lot of these slave quarters, people at the slave quarters or that own them want to destroy them, want to turn them into lavish bed and breakfast. So it's very important for me to document these and broadcast them live on Facebook, Twitter, on social media, so people can follow me and can feel the same expressions and feelings I have when I'm laying on a wooden floor or laying on a dirt floor, and I'm laying there and it's complete darkness, and just thinking, how did our ancestors live a lifetime in bondage? You know, touching the walls that are not insulated, and you can feel the wind go right through it. And so it's very important for me to, even though I don't know their names, but it's my job and responsibility to educate about these unknown people that we don't know about, because I'm standing on their shoulders. So I love going to plantation and learning about the history of our enslaved people. I also do reenactments on plantations as enslaved laundress. And I love educating children because they've never seen these type of demonstrations before. So it's important for them to understand. My name is Untitled Chapter. In order to have a future, you have to definitely know your past. So I enjoy doing reenactments and educating children. And just anything that's pertaining to Black history, I'm there. And it also includes going to cemeteries. I love going to cemeteries just to learn about our ancestors, the African American and enslaved cemeteries. Some of them are being...
Let me slow you down. You've said a mouthful already. My mind is blown already.
Mm-hmm.
Again, I follow you. I see much of what you post. I don't think I knew that you have slept inside of quarters of our enslaved ancestors.
Yes.
Tell me, if you know the number, how many times have you slept inside of these quarters? What possessed you to do so? And tell us a bit. I don't want to get too spooky or nothing like that here, but tell us the ethereal. Tell us the feeling that you feel once you have, on the occasions in which you've done this?
Okay, so I slept in 15 slave quarters, and I've gone through the slave dwelling project. His name is Joseph McGill. He is the founder, and he has slept in over 100 slave quarters throughout the United States. And so I got, joined him in some of them, and so in the total I've been slept in 15. And just laying there, it's a different experience. Absolutely. So the different places I slept in, like I slept in the attic, I slept in the kitchen. So when I go to these places, I ask the people, the tour guide, where did the enslaved sleep? So they'll tell me. So one in Washington D.C., not too far from the White House, there is a house called the Octagon, and it's not your traditional plantation where it's acres and acres of land. It's just like a regular house, and in the basement, an enslaved woman slept at the foot of the bed of the mistress. So just laying in these particular places just to honor my ancestors and telling the story. I mean, sometimes it brings tears to my face, and sometimes I don't sleep at all because I'm just laying there. Just I can never ever understand how they were enslaved for a lifetime, but just laying there and just thanking them for, if it wasn't for them, I wouldn't be where I'm at today. So it's a really, humbling experience. I remember one event where we was around a campfire on a plantation in South Carolina, and it was like 1 o'clock, well, maybe midnight. And in the distance, in the big house, there was a reception going on. And I remember hearing a song by Katy Perry, Fireworks. And it just hit me like.
So let me make sure I understand the saying. You're all alone in this quarters.
No, it was like maybe about 10 or 15 of us.
Okay. But
yeah,
at a distance, there's the big house. And then I imagine white folks, having a gay old time, having a good old time.
Mm-hmm.
Much like how it was 100 years ago, where a group of folks are huddled in this small shack over here, mm-hmm. and other folks are living life to the fullest over here in the big house.
Right, and I'm sitting around the campfire thinking about the ancestors. Either they're trying to go to sleep,
right,
and dreading to get up the next morning to toil in the fields,
before the
or
sun
they're sitting around the campfire trying to think of ways to escape. But there's a party going on, and here they are enslaved. And while I'm sitting there, I'm seeing all these coach buses going back and forth, during the middle of the night, because a lot of plantations have wedding receptions and, get married on these plantations, which I would love to speak to someone as to why would they want to have a wedding.
Goes inside the mind of someone, right? To make this a festive, joyous. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, and I reached out to people. It's no judgment, no heat. I just want to know the people that I reached out to just to have a conversation on why would they want to get married. Never respond back. Respond back to have a conversation.
Wow. I'm almost out of lost words. Let's just go back a little bit further into before you took that first trip, before you set your sights on that first location. Sort of what drove you, what desire, what interest, what piqued your interest, what has set you on this quest, this journey of exploration?
So I didn't grow up, learn about my history. It wasn't until I went to college, because when I grew up in we was like the second Black family in the neighborhood. So everybody around me was white.
What state, what city? What state or what city did you?
In Illinois.
Okay.
Yeah, so I used to live in the city, then we moved into the suburbs, so it was predominantly white, and so that's all I knew growing up. But when I went to college, I was around Black people, and I remember going to parties on Friday nights, and that's when you hear the conversations. There were people playing spades, dominoes, so I would hear like Marcus Garvey. I didn't know who he was. I knew who Malcolm X was. And in the background, you hear Boogie Down Production, Public Enemy. So when I was around these people talking about political things, I would go back to my dorm and do my research. So when the next party happened, I knew what they were talking about. And then that's when I started learning about my history. Then I went back to school and got my degree in African American Studies at Chicago State University. But really, what really sealed the deal was with my first trip to Africa. The anticipation. I went with Howard University, Miles College, Northeastern University. And I remember getting off
What
the
year was
plane.
this? And what year was this? And what was the destination? Where'd you all go?
Egypt, and this was in 2010.
Okay.
And I just remember getting off the plane and feeling that African heat hit me in my face, and just touching the soil, my foot touching the African soil for the first time.
Yeah.
It was just like an energizing experience in my body, because I've always said I wanted to go to Africa, and this was an opportunity of a lifetime. And our tour guide, the first thing he said was, "Welcome home, my brothers and sisters," and that was it. And even though I lost my luggage, they lost my luggage for 3 days.
Oh
I
no.
didn't care. I didn't mind wearing the same clothes. I could have worn the same clothes for the 2 weeks we were there. The devil was going to steal my joy. I was in Africa. And it
I
was
love
just
it.
an amazing experience. So when I got home, I knew this is what I want to do. I want to be a travel historian.
I love it. I love it. I love it. Now, you said that was your first time in Africa. So have you made multiple trips? If so, how many trips have you made to Africa? What countries? And what countries outside of Africa have you been to, if you've been to countries outside of Africa?
Yeah, so after that Africa trip, the following year, I went to Ghana. I did a study abroad. I was there for a month. And the difference between the two, when I went to Egypt, we stayed in the top 5-star hotels. But in Ghana, I was living in the city with the people. And I remember I would get up 6 o'clock in the morning. I would have my camera, and I would have my video, and I would just take a picture of everyday life in Ghana.
Yeah.
And it was just, and there were times where we didn't have no electricity, you know. So I had brought my books. So I mean, it was just, a different experience when I went to Egypt, and then when I went to Ghana. But I've been to Senegal, I've been to South Africa, the Zimbabwe. I was actually supposed to go to Ethiopia and Kenya this year, but with the pandemic, hopefully I'll be able to go next year.
I love it. I love it. Of your international travels, what would you say, if you can rank them, what would you say was your top one or two best destinations or experiences that you enjoyed?
Yeah, it's very difficult. I would just say going to Egypt, that first trip, because I never thought I had turned 40, and before I turned 40, I always kept saying, I'm going to Africa, I'm going to Africa. But it was just like when someone asked me, when did you go to Egypt? It just brings, tears to my face. I just get happy, So I would say just that first trip, that energizing experience through my body, and just being around people, and just, it was just an amazing experience.
I love it. I love it. I too have had the blessed opportunity to go to Egypt. So I know that Cairo Museum. I know seeing that humongous mosque as you leave in the airport, and then coming around and seeing those three timeless edifices, those pyramids there at the Giza Plateau.
Yes.
It's breathtaking.
For a long time, I thought the pyramids was sand. But actually, when I was standing in front of the pyramids, I was like, someone pinched me. I mean, am I here? And able to climb up the few steps I was able to, it was just like, oh my God, I just can't believe I'm here. I just can't believe I'm here. And I still can't believe it. When I look at pictures on my, Facebook, it brings back the memories. I just looking like, I can't believe I was there.
I seen your timeless photo with you and the so-called Sphinx Hormacket. I seen you giving a smooch to the Sphinx.
And I still can't believe I was there. I still can't believe it.
You definitely look like you were living it up. Definitely look like you were living it up on that trip. All right, let's bring it back here to the States. You were beginning to say, before I cut you off, that you visit cemeteries as well. Tell us about that experience, and tell us about some of the headstones, tombstones, and edifices in cemeteries that stand out in your mind.
Yeah. So what's so funny about it, my mother never took us to any funerals or cemeteries, at all. So my first experience going to a funeral was when I was 19. One of my classmates from college passed away, and I was traumatized. It was so bad that I had to sleep with the lights on for a couple of weeks.
Wow.
And then I asked my mother, I was like, Mom, how come you never took us to funerals? She was like, well, I just didn't think it was appropriate for, kids to go. But I'm like, me and my sister, we're traumatized, So it was something I had to get over. But my first time going to a cemetery was actually an enslaved cemetery in South Carolina, where the tour guide took us to a enslaved cemetery. And you could see the depression of the graves all lined up. and I feel like, it was like something that I want to learn more about.
Well, let
So
me pause you right there. You say you saw the Depressions, no headstones,
no,
no
and
respectability, no nothing honoring the life, the soul, the legacy of
no,
that person.
no. But and you will see the Depression all lined up, and you might see like a stone in front of it.
Just a rock.
But right, but enslaved cemeteries did not have like headstones.
Mm.
I know there's a cemetery in South Carolina where a lot of the ancestors that were enslaved there, a lot of their family members today are still active because they want to be buried with their ancestors, and they don't want the cemetery to be decorated. They want to leave it as is. They
Oh,
don't
wow.
want any type of markers. They don't want flowers. They want to leave it as it is.
Wow.
So in total, I have been to, I can't remember how many cemeteries, but I've, located over 600 grave sites.
Wow. Tell us some of the names of the more famous ones and not so famous ones, but interesting ones that you have uh, been able to locate. Let me tell you the one that I saw in your photos that stuck out to me, Mr. Miles Davis.
Yeah.
Mr. Miles Davis. Again, I create a calendar that highlights an event in Black history every single day, 365 days of Black facts, found at black365.com. And this year we are honoring Miles Davis in our calendar. And so in doing my research, I've seen his grave. However, with you standing next to it, you added some perspective. I did not know how humongous that his final resting place is. Tell us about that one, and again, tell us about some more famous ones that you've explored.
Yeah, so Miles Davis, I love going to cemeteries because to me it tells a story, and to know where they're buried at. So I love Miles Davis. Another one is Alex Haley. He's buried in Tennessee next to his childhood home.
Wow.
So yeah, so it's his home where you can go and do a tour, and right next to the home where he lived with his grandparents, actually his grandparents' home, and right next to it is his gravesite. And let me see, Rick James, he has a lot of beer bottles and weed.
Well, what city and state is his in?
Uh, New York.
Okay.
And let me see
You
another.
say, did you say beer bottles and weed? Is that what I heard?
Yeah, yeah,
Okay, okay.
yeah,
Rick James being
yeah,
honored that way. All right.
yeah, Rick James. And then let me see who else. It's a blues singer, and Muddy Waters.
Yeah, yeah.
He has a lot of cigars around his grave. So it's very interesting to see what people have left, to just it's like a token that they were here, or just to memorize, to honor them.
Honor, memorialize them. Yeah, that's beautiful. That's beautiful. Question, trivia question, or not trivia, but did you know that inside of Miles Davis's casket, he was buried with one of his trumpets?
That's
So
what I heard.
yeah, yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I know that there's an inscription of trumpets on his, on the marble and what have you.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, actually, inside of in there with him, he was buried with one of his trumpets. Again,
Yes, I heard that. And I was wanting to see if that was actually true. So
from,
yeah.
from everything I read, that is indeed true. Now, so we've talked about pyramids that you've touched. We've talked about quarters that housed enslaved Africans. We've talked about cemeteries. Now let's talk about statues. I see that you have a beautiful book that won't come out on my screen because I'm in front of a green screen, but if you could hold up your copy of the book. Yeah, Honoring the Legacy. Is this your first book that you've authored?
Yes, it is.
Published this year, correct? 2020?
Yes.
Congratulations on being a first-time author. Please let the people know where they can buy the book, and let's take a trip inside the book and talk about some of the statues that are inside the book and other things that the book is about. Well, first off, tell us where we can find the book.
So you can find the book on my website, sankofatravelher.com. The book is $24.99, and this is, like I said, my first book. It was a journey, but I'm very happy and excited, and getting a lot of positive feedback from it because I was really nervous. This is my first book, but I've been getting a lot of positive feedback. But it's a book about all this. For the past 6-7 years, I've located over 500 African American statues and monuments. And I started this several years ago, prior to the Charleston 9 murder, that pretty much sparked the conversation of Confederate flags and Confederate monuments being taken down.
Yeah.
And people always ask me my opinion. I'm like, well, why are they celebrating something when they lost?
When they
Instead
lost,
of,
who
yeah,
celebrates
instead of
losing?
waving the Confederate flag, you should be waving a white flag because you lost.
You lost.
And right. And to me, Confederate flags to me represents that they still have power. It also, to me, is a symbol of hate, of dehumanization of African Americans. And so that was the book. So that's when I started, trying to compile my book together. Then when the Confederate, issues with flags start, simmered down a little bit, then came Charlottesville. And then what happened was when that happened, I was going to a conference in Charlottesville maybe a week after that incident. And I was afraid that they were going to cancel it, but they didn't. So I remember getting up early in the morning going to the Robert E. Lee statue, and it was covered in tarp, and it was like maybe 25 or 26 feet high, and just thinking about why are people celebrating this man,
Right.
And then as I was putting my book together, then came George Floyd. And I felt like this was the perfect time. It was perfect timing for me to put this book out. And so the first chapter talks about my journey as a travel historian. The second chapter talks about the history of the Confederate monuments and Confederate flags. The third chapter, discusses the importance of public art. And then my interviews with some of the most amazing African American sculptors that talk about their passion for Black art, but also the struggles of being a Black artist in a white male dominant arena. Art is pretty much, does not cater to African American. It caters more to more white men. And out of the 500 statues that I've located, only 100 were designed by African Americans. And to me, that's a problem.
Give number one more time. Out of the 500
Out of the 500 plus statues I've located, only 100 were designed by African Americans.
Let's take one more step back real quick. Make sure, I'm not always the swiftest, brother. We're talking about Black statues designed by something other than Black people.
Yes.
The vast majority of them, from your experience, that is the case.
Yeah, because I went through each book, or I went through all the statues, and the ones that I could find who were the sculptors, only 100 were designed by African Americans, and to me, that's a problem.
Wow.
And doing my research and interviewing the artists, to me, when you have people in position that hire artists, don't look like us. I was doing research there in New York at the museum in New York. They hired 10 directors in the art museum, and they're all white. And when you see white statues, it's only maybe a handful that are designed by African Americans.
Somebody other than a white man. Right.
Exactly.
Right.
And to me, and doing an interview with these sculptors, it's more about the quantity, the number of statues you've done, and not the quality. Because I've seen statues like Martin Luther King, and I'm like, okay, who the hell is this? This don't look like King.
Wow.
Right. So that's why I put this book together, to have people have and since doing this book, I have a deeper appreciation of art. And I'm from Chicago, and a lot of the art programs are out of the schools right now. So kids don't have a place where they can express themselves. So I'm learning about Black art every single day. And that's why I'm happy that people, when they read this book, they also have an appreciation of Black art as well.
I love it. So you identified and photographed 500 statues, approximately. That's amazing. Tell us, please, give us your top 5. No, your top 10. I'm gonna make you stretch a little bit. Your top 10, if you could, favorite statues and their locations, if you could. Okay. You can use a cheat sheet. You can go inside your book if you want to, if you need to.
Okay, so I'm gonna say the first one is the Emancipation statue in Austin, Texas.
Austin, Texas. Yeah, I've recently come to know about that statue. We did a previous show on this show, about statues that people know about, and that was one of the one. It's humongous. It's
massive. It's absolutely beautiful, and that was designed by, I think his name is Ed White, an African American
Black man. Yes, indeed.
Yes, and I would say the second one.
Let's back up a little bit. Let's talk about the Emancipation. What about it makes it the first one that comes to your mind?
It commemorates Juneteenth.
Yep.
Because in Texas, they were the last one to know that they were free.
Indeed.
And I love the statue because it's so massive, But instead of taking a picture, I always tell people, instead of taking a picture, look at the detail, because there's a lot of hidden messages and symbols within the statues. And that's why I love it, because it's so massive and it's absolutely beautiful. I mean, every time I've been there 3 times,
Wow.
and it's so many people. I had to wait at least about 30 minutes to take a picture by myself, because everybody wants to take a picture of it.
Wow. Did you go on ceremonious time? Did you go at Juneteenth, or just all the time? There seems to be people around it.
All the time.
Wow.
There's always a lot of people there taking pictures of that statue. I mean, it's absolutely beautiful.
I love it.
I love the, let me see who else. I'm gonna stick with Chicago.
Okay.
Gwendolyn Brooks.
Yeah.
You know, she was a poet. So she's from Chicago. She taught at my university, Chicago State University. So it's a beautiful statue there, her in Chicago.
At a park, at Gwendolyn Brooks Park, correct?
Yes.
Yep.
Gwendolyn Brooks Park. And the third one, I would say it would have to be Richard Pryor.
Wow. Okay.
And I say that he's in Peoria, Illinois. And I say that because a lot of people in Peoria did not want a statue of Richard Pryor there. They didn't want him to be the symbol of Peoria, Illinois.
Is that right? Why?
Yeah. Because of his language, and his grandmother had brothels in Peoria, Illinois. So it was, I think it took several years. It took almost 10 years to get a statue there. And George Lopez, D.L. Hughley, and Cedric the Entertainer had to pay the rest for the statue. Yeah.
Wow.
So I would say Richard Pryor in Peoria, Illinois.
Okay.
And let me look at my book.
I was about to say, you got 500 of them. Come on now. 10 shouldn't be that tough.
Yeah.
I'll let you use a real good cheat sheet, honoring the legacy, a guide to African-American monuments and statues by my guest here, Miss Tammy Gibson, is the book that we're discussing. Yeah. Who else?
I got another one.
Yep.
Ella Fitzgerald.
Okay.
And there's a story behind it. This was designed by
where is it located?
In New York, Yonkers, New York.
Okay.
Designed by Vinnie Bagwell. She is an amazing artist. You have to follow her. This sister is deep.
She just did a Sojourner Truth, if I'm not mistaken, in New York.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes. So there's a story behind it. And I might not be correct, so don't quote me, but as she was putting the statue together, it got word to her that Ella Fitzgerald was blind at the time.
Oh, wow.
And when she completed the statue, she had passed away.
Hmm.
And so Vinnie Bagwell was putting together the ceremony of unveiling the statue. So it was completed. I think a couple of years later, she was at an event and she met Ella Fitzgerald's adopted son.
Oh, wow.
And she told him that she created a statue of his mother. He did not know. He didn't know there was a statue of Ella Fitzgerald. So she told me it was, I guess, late in the evening. She took him right over to where the statue was. Wow. And she said her adopted son just started crying.
Wow.
Because he had no idea that there was a statue of his mother.
And I'm sure he was awestruck about the detail. I've seen Miss Bagwell's work, and she's not one of the folks that you mentioned. You take a look at the person and say, "Who the heck is this?" No. Her work is so intricate, so detailed, so striking, so powerful, so beautiful. I can't even, I can't run out of adjectives explaining how amazing Miss Vinnie Bagwell's work is. Yeah.
Yes, you definitely have to follow, because actually she is going to replace the J. Marion Sims statue that was in Central Park. He was the father of gynecology. He experimented on enslaved women.
Yeah.
Without painkillers or
anesthesia. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Right. So they removed the statue, I think, in 2018.
Good.
And she is commissioned to replace, put a new statue over where the Marion statue was. Now, his statue was taken down and is housed at the cemetery where he's at, and they're going to place the statue where he is buried at.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah, ridiculous.
Do we know what Miss Bagwell, what she's going to create, or what she's going to put?
Well, she did a maquette, and it's called Beyond the Sims. And if you go on the internet, you can see the prototype, the maquette that she did. Okay. But it's absolutely beautiful. And I think because due to the pandemic, it was postponed.
Slow down.
But hopefully, I think by the end of this year or maybe 2021, that statue will be there.
Excellent. Give us a couple more. Please.
Okay. Let me see. Hmm. I would say the Tupac Shakur statue.
Okay.
The story behind that.
Where's
Had a
it located?
statue,
What city? What city?
Stone Mountain, Georgia.
Okay.
So it was,
Tupac in Georgia?
yeah.
Only
And
thing I know about Tupac in Georgia is that he shot 2 police officers in Atlanta. That's the only thing I knew about Tupac in the state of Georgia. But please share.
yeah, so actually, it was a statue, a memorial park, and it was a Tupac Shakur community center.
Okay.
All that's been completely gone, been
Mm.
demolished. And it was designed by, oh my God, who it was designed by? She passed away too. Tina Allen,
Okay.
designed by Tina Allen. And so I'm so glad that I was able to take a picture of Tupac Shakur before they took the whole statue
All right,
down.
let me back up. I know you said the community center is gone, but the statue's gone too?
Yeah.
Where's it at?
That's a good question.
Oh,
That's a
wow.
good question.
Wow.
So now Nigel Benz,
I
he's
know Nigel Benz.
yes, he is going to do a statue of Tupac Shakur, but it's going to be in LA.
Okay.
He spent most of his time at.
Nigel Benz. I've had the pleasure of meeting him on a couple of occasions. Tell me the name of his statue, Mother Earth?
Of Humanity.
Mother of Humanity,
California.
in the city of Watts.
Yes.
Yeah, I've been there. I've touched that. And I actually, again, had the fine opportunity of meeting him in a private home where he was gifting someone a brass head of Marcus Garvey. He's created just a handful of Marcus Garvey statues. And again, I know one of the recipients. And again, I was there when Nigel Benz gifted that gentleman with one of those statues.
Yes, and he's awesome and amazing. And right before I was about to send my book off, I was like, let me reach out to him. And he responded just like that. And I mean, he's just an amazing, talented artist. I mean, he's just amazing. And actually, I'm going to California in December, so hopefully, I'll get the opportunity to actually meet him and go to see the Mother Humanity statue.
Okay, excellent. We'll have to connect. I'm based here in Los Angeles area.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, and
it's not definitely.
Not too often I meet someone whose face sparks up, lights up on the subject of Black history like mine does, and so definitely kindred spirits have to connect.
Yeah, and also he did a Shirley Temple statue.
I didn't know that.
Yes. So I was like, that's very rare that you see an African American do a statue of someone white. But he said that's like one of the highlights.
Really?
And he had the opportunity to meet her, took a picture with her and the statue. So that's awesome.
I didn't know that. Again, a phenomenal brother. He's an author as well. He wrote a book on called Nuba Arts about African-centered, what we call martial arts. On the walls of Kemet, there are photos of brothers, participating in self-defense and what have you. And Nigel Benz authored a book talking about that. So this brother is just truly a Renaissance man.
Yeah, he was a bodyguard for Michael Jackson.
Right.
Yeah.
Indeed.
Awesome.
Indeed. Museums. I imagine you've gone to many museums.
Yes.
Tell us some of your favorite museum sculptures that you've come across, or tell us again also some museums that you like and that people should visit.
Well, so far it is the lynching memorial in Montgomery, Alabama.
Yeah.
And I went to the grand opening. And it was just, when I went there, I mean, my heart was racing because I didn't know what to expect. But when I walked in there and you saw the statues of the enslaved people, I just started crying, and that pretty much set the tone on my how I was feeling going through and seeing these columns that looked like had the lynching coming from the ceiling, and you see the names of 4,000 men, women, children that were lynched, and just looking at the names and just saying that I can't believe all these names of people that, that lost their lives due to racial terror. I met two sisters whose grandfather was lynched because he married an interracial couple. So they had descendants there, and they had like pins to represent that, their ancestors' names were there.
Wow.
And during the ceremony, it started getting cloudy, and all of a sudden it started raining heavenly, right? And to me, I felt like it was the ancestors' tears, saying that finally this is a place where their names, to honor them. And so it was just an amazing, humbling experience being there. And so I recommend everybody, black and white, to go to the lynching memorial. And every time I go to Montgomery, the first stop I make is going to the lynching memorial.
I think that place is too deep for me.
Really?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't
Yeah.
know. My heart, my enzymes, my molecules. I don't know if they can take it. I might explode. I don't know. I think it just might be too overwhelming for me.
Yeah, it is very, very overwhelming. And the times I've been there 4 or 5 times, and I still get, my tears. I still cry.
Mm.
And sometimes I just they have like a little water fountain on the walls, and it's really serene. And I just sit there, and just close my eyes, and just, I just go into some type of, deep sorrow and pain, just thinking about what our ancestors had endured.
Yeah.
But I go there every time I go to Montgomery. That's the first step. Before I do any other trips through Alabama, that's the first step I make.
Wow. Now, I've been charged with this. I'm curious to know if you have as well. I have people who say, you're crazy. Why are you going to go check out all this old stuff? What is it about this old dusty stuff? What is your response to people that say, why are you fooling around with this old stuff?
I get that all the time. And it's because you have to know your history.
Absolutely.
I have people send me messages in my inbox saying, the things you post are very offensive. I said, if you think it's offensive today, wait till tomorrow. So I get that all the time. And sometimes, it's not even worth me having a conversation.
Responding to, yeah.
And I don't stop what I'm doing because I'm telling the truth. And when I go, like, say for instance, when I go to these plantations and the tour guides tell me that slaves were treated well, I'm like, okay, wait a minute, hold up. What do you mean by that? And then they'll say, well, we kept the families together. They weren't lashed. They were able to go into town to go to stores, or they were able to visit family members at following plantations. So they were treated well, even though they were enslaved. So I'm going to tell the truth.
What is your rebuttal to someone who says something as ignorant as what you just laid out to us? How have you responded, or what do you think is an ideal response to that type of statement?
Well, but I keep asking questions. And when I ask questions, they're either deflected or they'll be like, oh God, I wish she would shut up.
Right. How'd you get my
And I was like, well, that doesn't make any sense to me. And then I sent an email to, the plantation that says that you need to retrain, your guys, because as a Black person, that's very offensive to me. For you to tell me that slaves were treated well. I don't want to hear that. And I spent $25. So I'm even mad about that.
Again, how could it be conceivable to anyone that the kidnapping of someone is okay? How can it be conceivable to anyone that having someone in bondage for their lifetime, their offspring's lifetime, their offspring's offspring lifetime can be anything other than devilish, demeaning, disrespectful at the very least? You can't tell me that that is okay in any shape, form, or fashion. And so I appreciate the stance that you take in trying to correct the training of these ignorant statements.
So I tell anybody, if you're going to any plantations, I've been to a lot, contact me. Because actually I had a cousin that's in South Carolina. She said, oh, we're going to this plantation. I said, don't go there.
Don't go that one.
Don't go to that one. Here's where you need to go to. And a lot of the storytelling, like you do go to plantations, you see white people in the kitchen. They weren't in the kitchen cooking. So, that bothers me too, because you're not hiring people to tell the story. And I remember going to a plantation, and one of the green actors told me that someone told him that he needs to tone down a little bit because you're making people feel uncomfortable. So who feel uncomfortable, right? Or you see people like, I'm not here to hear about slavery, but they're here to go see the big house, see the white columns, the manicured lawns, the chandeliers hanging from the wall. So you're there for the beauty and the oohs and ahs. I'm there to see the ugliness.
I'm there for the truth. I'm there for an accurate retelling, accurate portrayal of what has happened.
Right. And some of these plantations, they do a guided tour of the big house, but when it comes to the slave quarters, it's a self-guided tour.
Mm, mm-mm. Wow, wow, wow. Tell us a few of your favorite people in history. May not necessarily be someone who has a statue or that you've gone and seen, but again, give us again 2, 3, 4 of your favorite people in world history and why.
I would say Bessie Stringfield.
As a name that's unfamiliar to me, please educate me.
She was the first African American to ride her motorcycle through the country.
I am
The
familiar.
Jim Crow
Okay.
era.
Okay.
I
Okay.
love her story. Very little bit known about her, but as far as her love, she got her first motorcycle. She was adopted by a white family. She got her first motorcycle when her mother asked her, what did she want for her birthday? And she said she wanted a motorcycle. And her mother was like, that's not ladylike. But that's what she wanted, right? So
Yeah.
I think she got her motorcycle when she was 13 or 14 years old. She traveled across the United States. There was times that she dealt with racism. People will run her off the road.
Mm.
So in order to protect herself, she had to cover her face completely, and she had to cover her hands. So while she was riding through through the South and through the United States, no one would bother her. There were times where she would find a home to stay, or sometimes, at some hotels where they were, segregated, she had to sleep on her motorcycle, on top of her motorcycle. So just her story is amazing. What angered me was because the Harley Davidson Museum in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, a couple of years ago, they had a display. When I went there, it was gone, and it was replaced with another white female motorcycle.
Wow.
That angered me.
Absolutely.
That angered me. And I asked the people that work there, I said, I'm here to look for the Bessie Stringfield exhibit. Can you tell me where it's at? And they was like, it's no longer there. And I'm like, well, why not? And so I walked around the museum before I went to someone and asked them about where it is. So that troubled me, that she's not there permanently.
Right.
And
Right.
I spent $15.
Right.
I was even I was mad about that. So I reached out to Harley Davidson. They never responded back.
Mm.
And since I think about it now, I'm gonna respond back to them again.
I was about to say, send me the form letter and contact, and I'll take your letter and build on it, and then
yeah,
the campaign. I'm serious.
Yeah, so that angered me. Another person is Worcy Crawford.
Again, another name that doesn't immediately jump out to me. Please educate me.
He owned a bus company in Birmingham, Alabama.
Tell me his name one more time.
Worcy Crawford. Okay. Worcy Crawford.
Worcy, okay.
Yes. And he owned a busing company during Jim Crow era.
Okay.
He took people to the March on Washington. He provided busing to people during the protest, or when they stopped riding on, public transportation. And I remember in the beginning, he wanted to. He had a truck at first before he started doing his professional bus company with the Negro League. They couldn't find anybody to take the players to games, so he would take them, and that started his idea of owning his own bus company. And I remember when he tried to get a loan or try to get a license, they said there's no such thing as a nigger that owns a bus company. So he had to go through a church in order for him to get a bus.
Wow.
And his story is amazing. The bus company is still in business today.
Wow.
It's called Crawford and Son. It's in Birmingham, Alabama. So anybody that does family trips or busing and stuff, please solicit Crawford and Company.
I love it. I love it.
Another one. Let me see.
Yeah, one or two more.
Oh, let me see.
Yeah, famous, not famous, but again, someone whose story stands out to you in world history, any time, any era, any period, any place.
Right. I would say Osceola. Oh God, what's her last name? But she was a washerwoman.
Okay.
In Hattiesburg, Mississippi.
Okay.
And she was taught by her mother and grandmother how to wash clothes. And she spent 70 plus years washing clothes. when she developed carpal tunnel, she stopped washing clothes. So for 70 years, she started saving money. When she retired, she found out she had saved over $250,000.
Wow.
Yes, for 70 plus years. So when she went to the bank, they asked her, you're getting older. We need to know what you want to do with this money. So she gave some of her money to her family members. She gave some money to her church, and she gave $150,000 to the University of Mississippi
Wow.
in Hattiesburg. She had one condition. Her condition was that she wanted these scholarships to go to African American students.
Wow.
So that she remembered passing by this university during the time it was segregated. She was not even allowed to go on campus.
Yeah.
But for this woman that was a washerwoman for 70 plus years to donate almost half of her savings to the University of Mississippi, I mean, it's just amazing.
That is amazing. Do we know that the university honored her request?
Yes, they honored her request, and she became an instant celebrity. I mean, she was on talk shows. She went to a game at the University of Mississippi for the first time at the stadium, and she got a standing ovation that lasted for a very, very long time.
That's amazing.
And they asked her what was her last what do she have any regrets, and she said she wished she would have given more.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So they're turning her home into a museum. I was there earlier this year, pre the pandemic.
Okay.
And so I'm waiting to go to that museum.
I might have to hitch a ride with you. That's something that's inspirational. That is that I don't know, to make my heart flutter a little bit,
Yeah. So I like to talk about, unsung African Americans.
Indeed.
So I tell people, Black History Month, everybody talks about Martin Luther King, Harriet Tubman,
Rosa Parks.
Rosa Parks.
Maybe Malcolm X. Maybe.
And Booker T. Washington. Yeah. But our history is more than that. And so, like with my niece, when Black History Month comes around, she know not to ask about those three people. She know. So she did about the four little girls.
Okay.
And her teachers did not know about the four little girls.
Wow.
Had no clue about it.
16th Street Baptist Church. Anything about it, huh?
Yeah, so she had my niece talk to the students about it because she didn't know about it.
Wow.
So we definitely need to expound our history more than those three people.
Absolutely. Yeah. Let me ask you somewhat of a personal question here. Now, kind of piggybacks off my previous question. When you travel, again, a lot of people aren't fans of history, right? So do you have a travel companion, or are you solo? It seems like you're kind of solo on some of these trips. It seemed like a tripod set up to take some of those photos that I've seen.
Yes, I'm always solo because when I go travel, I like to take my time. And I went with one person, and she was like, "This girl's hot out here." I was like, "Never again." I was like, "Never again." So I have to do it solo because when I do my travels, I have an itinerary, and I try to stick to the itinerary. Okay. So I start tracing history when the sun comes up. So if the sun comes up at 6:30, I'm out the door at 6:30.
Wow.
And when the sun rises. So during the summertime, I can get between 14 to 15 hours of covering a lot of history.
Wow.
When the time changes during the wintertime, it's like 8 hours.
Okay.
So I'm really, crunching to get as much time. Yeah. So like when November comes, it's like, man.
It's dark.
Right, it gets dark sooner. So I only have a little bit of time to do as much as I can, because sometimes when I'm going to one city to another, it may take me 2 hours to get there.
Travel, yeah.
Right. So I make sure, I have, safety cautions. I make sure when I go to a hotel, I don't go to a base motel. I go to a hotel where there's like a movie theater, a mall, shopping. There's several hotels around. So I make sure that I used to get to my hotel maybe an hour before it gets dark. So I'm very, cautious.
Speaking of that, have you had any hairy situations in any of your travels? Any close calls? Anything that made you feel a bit uncomfortable?
Well, I haven't experienced, but I'm gonna be clean about it.
Okay.
So I was, doing, finding my roots in Mississippi. I got family in Mississippi.
Okay.
So her name, Flora Bell Gilliam, right? So she's buried at the church cemetery, like in rural Mississippi.
So this is an ancestor that you were searching for?
Yes.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah. So I found the church cemetery, right? And I love going to cemeteries and churches because you can find it just like that, right?
Okay.
So I took a picture. And so as I was packing up, I said, you know what, let me take a picture of the church and a sign so I can, know where my ancestors buried at, right? So I set up my I set up my tripod and I was standing next to the sign. So us girls, we have our hands on our hip and
Uh-huh.
our knees up, right?
Yeah.
So I'm waiting for the timer, right? And I was like, ouch, out, out, out. And what happened? I was standing on a red ant hill.
Oh no.
And so I had on pants that were very loose. So the ants were just crawling up under my pants,
Oh
right?
no.
And I'm saying explicit words, right? And I'm screaming and hollering, right? And it was traveling up so fast that I was naked from the waist down. I
Oh.
pulled everything off and I started running to my car, right? I'm running and I'm just like, they were crawling up on me. I'm running, running to my car and I had some bottled water. So I'm trying to get the ants off me. I'm just water all over me, right? And I'm sitting in the backseat of the car, like still naked from the waist down. It's like, I be damned.
I can't believe it.
And I was just like, I can't believe this happened to me. I can't
That
believe it.
is
So
funny.
yeah, that was like, so when I think of Floribel Gilliam, I was like, I remember that. I remember Floribel Gilliam.
Forever, forever, ever, forever,
Mhm.
ever. Why were you searching for her? Tell me about her.
Well, just I was, my mother parents never took us to Mississippi. I didn't get to go to Mississippi until I was an adult,
So
and I
let
was,
me ask, that was a personal ancestor that you were related to this person? Okay.
yeah, yeah.
Okay.
And so I was just, my parents are from Mount Bayou, Prairie, Mississippi, Greenwood, and Jackson. And so I was just, locating where my ancestors are buried at.
Mountain Bayou, founded by Black people, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah. Recently this
Isaiah
year.
Montgomery.
Okay, okay. Yeah, this year
Yeah,
I did some research about Mountain Bayou.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So a lot of my family members are came from there. Yeah.
Okay, okay. Excellent, excellent. Please tell us about the book. Our hour has been well spent. We're winding down here. Tell us where we can find the book and tell us just a little bit more, again, a little snippet about the book and when someone orders it, what can they expect from it?
Well, when you order my book, Honor the Legacy, A Guide of African Monuments and Statues, you're going to learn about, Black art. You're going to learn about the history of the statues. And like I said, if you love Black history, if you love Black art, and you love to travel, then this book is definitely for you. I call it the Green Book of Statues and Monuments. So you can definitely learn a lot. When you take a picture, try to get as much history as you can because not only does these statues are teaching tools, but they also bring pride and beauty in a community.
Absolutely. Spell the website one more time for us, please.
Yes, Sankofa Travel Her, Sankofa Travel Her, female her. Sankofa Travel Her.
That is where I went to go pick up my copy. I'm happy. I'm excited. It just came in this week.
Oh, good.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'll be diving into that and checking out all of the amazing photos, reading about all the amazing artists, reading about all the amazing stories, and I'll be using it as a roadmap. I'm going to find out, we're in this safer at home, pandemic scenario. So might hop in the car, maybe do a 200-mile radius, see what's around me, and go out and exploring. Thanks to this book, is going to help pass the time away and help me, educate myself and learn and grow. So I appreciate you putting it together.
Awesome. And my favorite part of the chapter is the interview.
Okay.
I mean, it was just, just even though they love art, you get a different story from each one, from different backgrounds. A former NFL football player, a bodyguard for Michael Jackson, a graphic designer, a minister, and an up and coming, young man. So, I mean, the best part of the book for me is the interviews.
Excellent, excellent. Well, Ms. Gibson, I appreciate you more than you know. I know you said that you like to travel solo, but I'm hoping maybe you make an exception. Again, I rarely meet someone who is as excited as I am, whose energy matches mine in terms of just an insatiable thirst for history. Real quick before we sign off, I got to tell a funny story. I too like to travel solo when I'm doing my thing out there. Went with a brother. We went to Boston and we did a self-guided tour around Black Boston and what have you. And then we went to the museum. And well, before we got to the museum, the brother's shoe fell apart. Like literally the sole fell off his shoe. I had him walking so much in Boston, checking out the statues and what have you, right? And then we got to the museum. Again, I'm standing there taking my time, enjoying every aspect of something. They have at the Boston Museum of Fine Art, there's a statue of Menkaure, the brother responsible for the third pyramid there at the Giza Plateau. So you have Khufu, Khafre, and Menkaure, right? The smallest Menkaure, him and his divine wife. And so I have a bit of a statue fetish. I like touching statues. And so, I look around, touch the statue. The brother got all super nervous. And then he was like, "You're doing too much, man." And so he sat down, thankfully, for the duration of my time at the Boston Museum of Fine Arts. He's like, "I see you just in a different zone. I see you doing your thing. I don't want to interrupt you. Take your time. I'll be sitting here." So it was about, I want to say, over 2 hours that I spent, again, going through the museum. And I was thankful that the brother didn't interrupt. But again, I still owe that brother a pair of shoes, because I literally walked his shoes off. I literally walked his shoes off as much as we walked around. So again, I understand the desire to, not encumber anybody. But again, I'll let you know that you won't be encumbering me. I'll be right there enjoying it. I don't know if I'm going to hang with you in those cemeteries, though. It might be too spooky for me to hang with you in some cemeteries.
Look, if I'm going to California in December, we got to go to one.
We got to go to one. We got to go to one. That's a promise. Let's make it happen. Good. Well, again, I appreciate you for coming on to the Gist of Freedom radio show. Again, Black History University is where you can find the rebroadcast. Also at black365.com. This video will be there for folks to check out. There's also a number of Black history products at black365.com. I'm your host, Jamal Brown, aka Mr. Black 365, and we are signing off. Talk to you soon. Peace.